What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Recently we've been getting all these weird builds pop up into the spotlight, like Tank Echo Top, Tank Fizz, and others, but they're mostly just builds surrounding the tank items. But one of those weird builds that slipped a little bit under the radar is this new Tristana build involving GUINSOO'S Rageblade and Runaan's Hurricane. It's a little bit weird and I thought it was really crazy when I first heard about it, so I wanted to take a look at it and find out just how good is Rageblade Tristana. And if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you don't enjoy the video, click that dislike. And let's get started. So the way that I first heard about this build and how it's starting to gain popularity at higher rankings of play all of a sudden was with an interview from TSM's Doublelift and Travis on Yahoo Esports. It's a pretty interesting story actually. Essentially what happened was that CLG started playing the build in scrims against TSM after seeing it from the Korean player named Pilot, and TSM saw the build and tried it out and thought it had some pretty nice potential to be successful. They didn't think it was crazy, but it was a bit weird and pretty solid overall. And the pick did get leaked to most of the other teams, and since they didn't know how to deal with it, it was kinda just banned out in most of the games in the semi-finals of the LCS playoffs. So despite the power that Rageblade Tristana supposedly might have at the competitive level, we didn't actually get to see too many games of it in the LCS playoffs, because Team Liquid and Immortals didn't actually know how to play against it, so they just didn't want to take the risk of having to face this new strategy. So there's your proof right there that Rageblade Tristana does have a little bit of merit to it, and it's decent at the competitive level, at least in the eyes of CLG, TSM, Team Liquid, and Immortals. The build involves a Tristana AD carry rushing GUINSOO'S Rageblade first, and then building Runaan's Hurricane into an Infinity Edge, and from there you build items based on the situation of your current game. The goal is to take advantage of Tristana's super high range due to her passive, as well as mitigating her lackluster mid game. Tristana is an insane hyper carry in the late game, but her mid game is really lacking, and a lot of the time the team fights during the mid game are kind of what snowballs the game and decides the eventual winner, especially at the competitive level. So finding a way to mitigate that power trough, while also still having this trump card up your sleeve in case the game isn't actually decided yet 35 minutes in, sets you up for a solid overall composition potentially. She ends up playing out a lot like a Kog'Maw would, but Tristana's escape is amazing, so it makes her so much more reliable and harder to counter. Albeit with a little bit less damage, it's not by much. She's still definitely dealing tons of damage regardless, due to her steroid and the whole, late game AD carry thing. GUINSOO'S Rageblade is built as a way to improve her mid game, as the stats that the item bring can be pretty insane. At just 3 stacks it becomes gold efficient, and when it's fully stacked it just blows everything out of the water, and is giving you a whopping 192% gold efficiency, without even taking into account the area of effect damage. Meanwhile, Infinity Edge, which would be the alternative build, caps out at like a measly 97% gold efficiency until you get some more crit chance to improve the power of the crit damage bonus passive. And sure, you do have to stack up GUINSOO'S, but with high range and a great attack speed steroid, Tristana can do that just fine. And let's not forget that Tristana does have AP ratios on her W, E, and her ultimate, so it's far from a useless stat on her. Once this ability gets a bit further along the item path too, she can easily hit the attack speed cap after stacking GUINSOO'S using her rapid fire ability. And on top of that, the build is incredible for macro and objective play. The wave clear Tristana gets becomes insane, as she has GUINSOO'S Rageblade's area of effect damage, the Runaan's Hurricane area of effect damage, and her explosive shot passive area of effect damage. And her explosive shot has attack damage and ability power scaling, so she's going to be killing turrets insanely fast too with that ability, while her wave clear is going to allow you to siege, push out lanes, and defend versus your opponent's siege. Her wave clear honestly becomes so amazing that you can even stall out when the opponent has a Baron buff. So on the objective level, this build is just amazing compared to the traditional Tristana build, and it does a solid job of capitalizing on Tristana's strengths in her kit of her passive and her Q in order to take objectives and stop your opponent from taking objectives as well. The main weakness this build presents is that during the early game, during the laning phase, you kind of take a little bit of a hit since the build path of GUINSOO'S Rageblade is definitely not ideal for the laning phase. And while this doesn't matter at all in competitive play because they usually just lane swap anyways and build a call, in solo queue this can be a little bit detrimental. I definitely think that this build is better in competitive play than in solo queue though, since in competitive play the objective game is much more sophisticated and the tools that Tristana brings with this build will be much more impactful, but it's also true that in solo queue, lots and lots of games are decided during the mid-game teamfights, and Tristana's laning is safe enough to where she can usually just farm and try to survive if she has to, until she completes the GUINSOO'S Rageblade. As well, it does also cause her to need time to stack up the Rageblade, but in a fight where the DPS of an AD carry is actually going to matter, you're going to be getting off way more than 8 auto attacks, and a lot of the time you can maybe get 2 or 3 stacks from minions somehow before the fight starts anyway. And once you actually do complete the GUINSOO'S Rageblade, it's a lot more powerful than a standard Infinity Edge would be once you finish it. Sure, the build path kinda sucks, so you do kind of have to try and survive for a little bit, but once you finish it, it gives you a really strong one-item power spike that allows you to compete with the early to mid-game strength of the other meta AD carries. And the whole idea surrounding this is that her late game is going to be so amazing regardless just because she's Tristana, that it really doesn't matter at all and you can still pick up Infinity Edge as your third item anyway. This build does a great job of taking advantage of GUINSOO'S and Hurricane, which are 2 pretty powerful items that are arguably a little bit overtuned right now. Ever since the Season 6 changes, we've been seeing these items on really anyone that can make use of them, and for good reason, so why not Tristana too? And actually, some of the other AD carries that have fallen out of the meta are starting to try out this build a little bit as well, because they have similar problems to Tristana of having like this weak mid game, which has always been kind of a bummer for an AD carry, since a large amount, maybe even a majority of games are decided in the first handful of mid-game teamfights, and not being able to compete in those fights as an AD carry compared to the other meta AD carries that have a lot more damage on their abilities, or maybe like some kind of thing that just gives the mid-game power going on, kinda sucks, and it's a serious weakness for those champions. So it's certainly not a bad build, and it's probably better than the traditional AD carry build on Tristana most of the time now, as long as you can manage to survive the part of the laning phase where you have to back and then pick up a blasting wand. It's a pretty cool build that has some interesting traits, and it's a lot more versatile than standard Tristana, which to me makes it a lot more interesting, and certainly a lot more fun. And since it's proven to have power at the competitive level, it's not unreasonable to build Tristana this way yourself, as despite the differences between competitive play and solo queue, most of the pros are still building and playing Tristana like this in Challenger solo queue anyway, so maybe give it a try if you haven't already, and dust off that old Tristana pick if you feel like it, and most of all have fun. Looks like that's going to be just about it. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys next time.